We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 1000 KKIM, and now on the internet station knookmedia.com in Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. This Veterans Day weekend, we're having a tribute to veterans, and our guest in studio is Jim Escalle. Did I pronounce it right, Jim?
Yes, you sure did.
Okay, good. You got me well trained here. He wrote a great book on his uncle called Unforgotten Hero, Remembering a Fighter Pilot's Life, War, and the Ultimate Sacrifice. So you're named after, this is your namesake, Jim.
Yep, sure is.
And a couple of things that, again, it's an excellent book. And where can people get this book?
Well, they could order it from their local bookstore or any bookstore around the country they could order it from. And they could get it online, online bookstores like Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. You get it from there. So, and any information on the book could be unforgottenhero.net. That's the website.
Unforgottenhero.net?
Unforgottenhero.net. That's the website. They get information on the book there, how to order it, where to order it.
Good.
And they get some pictures. They see pictures. That's
your website.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's the book's website, yeah. And they get information. They should see some advanced praise they got when I wrote it, all excerpt.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I highly recommend this book. It's a great book. So let's talk a little bit about what happened to your uncle. He went through Foxes of 52F. Talk about that.
Well, that was his pilot training class. Okay. Everybody got, when he applied for a cadet class, he's going to UC Berkeley. And
UC Berkeley. I'm sorry.
This was back in the olden days, before the. Okay, but anyway, he dropped out. He was going to UC Berkeley. He wanted to be a mechanical engineer, so he transferred from Bakersfield College, where he graduated in 1950. Went and got his transcripts sent over there. But after only one semester at UC Berkeley, he decided all his friends were being drafted or signing up to go to Korea, and he couldn't really, stand there on the sidelines. And so he decided he was going to do what he wanted to do. So he applied to the aviation cadet program, which only needed two years of college, and he had that when he graduated from Bakersfield College.
So that's all he needed to get in at that time.
Just 2 years, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he applied to the college, but they had a waiting period, so the government could draft you still.
Right.
So he decided, okay, I'll apply to the cadet program. And he had to wait till they have, there's an opening for a class. And, of course, the draft is coming up. And said, well, I guess I'll have to enlist. So he had to enlist in the Air Force as an enlisted person. And then finally he got, went to basic training and stuff like that. And he finally got assigned to Class 52F, 52 Fox. And then he got assigned to Columbus Air Force Base in Mississippi.
Right.
Where he finally got to fly, where he's been looking for almost his whole life,
That's kind of an interesting time, the Korean War, because, it's 5 years after the end of World War II.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of veterans that came back, like my dad did, came back to fight in the Korean War. So you've got a lot of, at that time, old-timers, and then you've got the younger group, which is, your dad's group.
It's like a generation right behind the generation of World War II.
Yes, that came in. When I went in the Marines in the late 60s, there were still some of the warrant officers. They'd made some of the old sergeants warrant officers because they were the only ones around that had any, combat training.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were still around from Korean War, and a couple left from from World War II. So, there's that, like you say, the generational thing, and your dad was the next generation that came in after World War II. So,
well, if he was maybe a few years older, they would have gone in World War II.
Yes.
He wanted to, but too young, can't do.
Yep.
Of course, later on, here comes Korea.
Right.
Take the opportunity.
Yeah. Now, but there's a big shift in the two wars because, in World War II, you didn't have jets.
No.
But they were starting to.
Well, they were introduced in the very end of World War II.
Right. Actually, the Germans had them, but didn't have.
Well, the Germans had them, but as far as the Americans go, it was introduced too late to really go see combat.
Yep.
So it was that transition between World War II and before the Korean. That's when everybody, hey, I want to be a jet pilot.
Right.
Latest thing.
Yeah. So basically, they had to retrain the World War II pilots in jets because that's a.
Well, they had the basic flying experience, but the jets was kind of a new.
You bet.
Yeah, especially the early jets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like going from an Edsel to a Cadillac. You're looking at two totally
completely
different cars. Yeah. So he went to Korea. How many missions did he have in Korea? Do you know?
Well, he flew 41. Now, 41 included his last final mission. Okay. And that was the mission, of course, he became missing in action.
Right. And how close to the end of the war was that?
Oh, wow. It was about 5 weeks before the armistice was signed.
Wow.
Yeah, he went missing June 19th. And, of course, the armistice was signed, July 27th?
Yes.
So that was very short, like 5 weeks or so.
Wow, so it's close to the end of it. Our in-studio guest, Jim Escalle, who wrote a great book on his uncle called Unforgotten Hero, Remembering a Fighter Pilot's Life, War, and the Ultimate Sacrifice on this Veterans Day weekend. So he on his 41st mission, he was shot down. Do you know any of the details of what happened?
Well, they don't know if he shot down. I mean, they're guessing. It's all guess, because there's no evidence. Nobody saw it. So all they know, he was, there, and had his wingman. Since they were going after a target, these trucks, and since they wanted to avoid as much anti-aircraft fire as possible, they had to go opposite directions. So they weren't seeing each other, so they had to maintain their availability via radio calls. Like, I'm down now, okay, it's your turn, I'm out of the area, it's your turn. So they couldn't see each other, so they're going crisscross, to avoid the anti-aircraft fire that was on the valleys around this like where the trucks were next to the river. And anyway, he went down. My uncle went down for the second. He went for the first pass. Wingman went down for first pass. My uncle said, I spot some more trucks. So he went down for a second pass, and nothing. And the wingman said, waiting for the radio call, that my uncle was off the target. That was his turn to go.
Right.
But nothing came. So the wingman went back up and just circled the area. Nothing's happening. I don't hear nothing from him. What's going on? I don't see nothing. And then pretty soon the other flight, because there's 4 altogether, by the time they split off into elements, and they're looking for parachutes. Any sign? Nothing. So they didn't even hear a crash or anything? Didn't hear an explosion? They didn't hear nothing. Just didn't see nothing. It's just gone, basically. Now, but they did when they went back to base, because the fuel's getting low. They have to return to base, and they sent out they call rest cap. Right. Okay, and they came back and they checked, and they did see a wreckage aircraft, of his plane.
Oh, they did. So they did see the wreckage.
They see the smoking of the plane, and they saw the hotel section and part of a wing. Right. But there's no sign of my uncle, no parachute, no sign that he was, alive or what happened to him. So in essence, I mean, for practical purposes, he could have ejected and be a POW. You really don't know. There's a whole bunch of possibilities. He could have bailed out. He could have got captured. North Koreans could have got him. Chinese could have got him. Sure. He could have went down with the aircraft. I mean, it's about 3 or 4 different possibilities. Sure, and it's. I mean, not to make any conjecture here, because we're talking about your uncle, but we've done a lot of shows on POWs, and there ended up being a lot of. When I left the Marines, I worked for the POW organization. There ended up being a lot of POWs in China and in the Soviet Union from the Korean War. So who knows? You never know. Well, he was on this list of the 31. This leaked government report in 1992. He was on the list of 31 missing F-86 pilots who may have survived, based on the crash reports, may have survived and may have been sent to the Soviet Union, but they're not certain. Okay. So it went kind of a dead end on the research on that end. So why would they put him on the possible list that he may have gone? Well, they just put anybody who may have survived the crash. Okay, so there was nothing behind it? Yeah, no evidence that he was there, no that Soviets may have interviewed him, captured him, none of that. They just said he could have been one of 31 that may have survived his crash, and it's possibly that he could have been. So they don't know he survived the crash. They just think that there's a possibility. I did get a report from the government saying it's probably highly unlikely that he did, because he wasn't in the area where the Russians or whatever were, maintaining their presence with the Chinese to capture these Americans, aviators and stuff. Yeah, taking them back there. Yeah. So nobody knows. Yeah, it's a crapshoot. That's the scary thing about being missing in action, is because there's no proof one way or the other. It's one big mystery. Yeah, but they did see the plane go down, and they did see pieces of the plane. Well, they didn't see the plane go down. When they went back, they just saw the smoke, and they find the crash where the airplane ended up. Yeah. Okay, and pieces of it. Exactly. Okay, again, the name of the book is Unforgotten Hero, Remembering a Fighter Pilot's Life, War, and the Ultimate Sacrifice. And where can people get the book again, Jim? They could order it from any bookstore, from the local bookstore, and also online, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. Okay. And they can check out information on the website, unforgottenhero.net. That's your website, and it's a great website. It's got some excerpts of the book and everything on it. So, and again, I highly, highly recommend it. Jim, thank you for coming on. You're welcome, Marty. You did great. Thank you. We'll see you in 167 hours on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk 1180.